Swift 2.0 is a revised version of Swift 1.2, and in fact a lot of things have been added and a lot of people just get overexcited about the things like there are statements like guard, break, continue, checking of availability, early breakage and early exits and all of that. But don't worry about anything. We will take care of all of them, but right now you should not get over enthusiastic about the things because we are trying to have the basics first. Now later on, it really doesn't make sense if I just put all the things in front of your screen and just say, hey, this is that. It doesn't really make sense. We will first try to get through with the basics and then we will have some challenges while designing the application. We will get rid of those challenges by utilizing these API abilities and all these facilities being provided by the Swift. So with that, let's talk about the loops. Now we have got two flavors of the loop. Two flavors for the for and two flavors of the while. No, I'm not selling the ice cream out here, but these are the flavors and I like to call them that. So let's talk about them. I'll not discuss much of the for loop because it's pretty obvious, and in fact in any C style language if you have written a for loop then you cannot go wrong, honestly. So it says for with the keyword at the line number 8. We are declaring a variable at the go, that is var I. Now, just on to a side note that do you know why we all put I out there? Now, in fact, when the very first documentation was out for the programming, it said that it is an iteration and we are using the first word of the iteration as I, and after that it was considered as a lot of years it was considered as this is really required. We can only have I, J and K, but that's not the case. Okay. Apart from that side note, let's move on. This is the initialization part, the conditional check and the increment, decrement and whatever the code you want to write. So this is pretty obvious, and in fact any programmer who have written any line of codes in the entire life can write the very simple old classic for loop. But the interesting part is not the for loop, it's the other flavor, which is simply the for in loop. Now, this is a smart loop for the modern programming language, exists in most of the modern ones, and I'm quite a fan of that. Now, it says that you do not need to explicitly have a check for the index, whatever you are doing. Like for example, I have got a range operator. Now, this is a closed range. It simply says that include 1 till 20. So all the 19, 20, all the values are being included. Now, the next one, which I gave you as a simple assignment, was this one, a less than sign. Now this is pretty obvious, but this doesn't include the number onto your right. Like for example, here the 20 will not be included. The loop will only work till the 19. So why do we have it? Yes, we have an arrays also to deal up with. So that is why this loop is pretty useful at that time. Okay. Now this number is actually a smart object out here. It's just not an integer type of object because notice we haven't defined the number as an integer type. We haven't used var or let or anything out here, and still the number is perfectly allowed. You can print the number as well. Now right now in the playground I don't have an option to print all of the values, but if we'll run this onto an application or maybe a Swift terminal application, this is going to work quite fine, since we don't get any error out there on the playground. Okay, so this is quite an interesting. Now, this loop is really powerful and interesting. Let me show you with that. Now, it doesn't mean that you can only loop through with simple integers. You can loop through with the tuples, dictionary, arrays, and whatever the data types are there. But here is a problem with the documentation, the current documentation of the Swift. Now, let's say I want to loop through with the string. So if I say something like this for char in, and I want to have some characters. Now let's just say we define a string. I'll just call this as a string. No, I have to call it a var str is equals to, and let's just say a simple string. This is a string. Now you can obviously have spaces and all of that in that. No problem with that. So I just say for char in str, and I use this one, and I go something like this, and I just say print, and here I say the character is, and I just use the string interpolation for char. Now notice when I save that, now obviously it gives me an error. Now notice why this error is popping up. Now, although there is no solution for the documentation in the documentation right now, but this doesn't mean we are stuck out here. We can have alternatives and all of that. and right now it just pops an error, and the error is not the friendliest in the world. It just say the string has no member generator. Now obviously we can get rid of that. Let me just click on that and show you there is a characters property. Once you have accessed that, now this works really fine with the character as well. So this is a workaround with whatever we have in the Swift for that. Now apart from this, if you have a tuples, if you have a dictionary, you can loop through with the for in loop. And in fact, I would recommend that if you haven't tried it yet, go ahead, try that out. It's really an impressive loop. Okay, enough about the for loop, because I'm quite a fan of that. Let's talk about the while loop flavors. Now while have two flavors, and if you're coming from any C style language, you might have noticed, yay, I already know that there is a while and there is a do while. No, there is no do while. It has been replaced by that repeat while loop. Now apart from the keyword being changed, there is nothing extraordinary out there. It's just as simple as it sounds. So here we have got a while loop. It's just an iteration. We declared a temp for the temperature 30 degree, and while temp is greater than 10, we just want to print out the current temperature. And of course, do not forget this, because it's an incrementer or decrementer. If this is not going to be there, or this is somehow wrongly placed, you will end up with an infinite loop, which is a really bad situation for any API, programming, iPhone app, in fact desktop app, watch app. This is really a bad thing. Let's just say I replace it with the plus, and notice what happens in a moment. It just keeps on going crazily, and really I don't want to crash my system, so I'll just stop that. And in fact, just I missed out, there is a small bottom button which you can stop and run at any point of time. So this is really good we have. And after that, we have got a repeat while loop as well. Now the repeat while loop says that first of all you need to repeat. Now the only difference is the while loop first of all checks the condition and then only runs the case, while the repeat while loop says I'll run the condition or whatever the statements are at least once, then I'll check the condition. If the conditions are true, then I'll allow you to repeat again, otherwise you cannot repeat. But still, the only difference you should take with the repeat while loop is there is at least one time execution that is going to be happening out there. Like for example, if I just replace it with, let's just say 2, notice now it says the current temperature is 10 because it is looping it one time only. The condition is false, so it says I will not allow you to loop again, but still you can loop through one time. So it's a good and interesting movie about knowing all about the loops out here. Pretty interesting. Now let's move ahead.